Welcome to The Network, the educational podcast designed to help our community navigate the four areas of life that I like to call the funky four corners. I've had the opportunity to interview some of my favorite people with one goal in mind: to help the spiritual, physical, mental, and financial health of our people as we navigate this thing called life. Subscribe to The Network. You never know, you might need it. Welcome back, everybody. This is The Network. In the words of the great American poet, Canton Jones, when I'm driving on 45 and somebody cut me off and flip me the bird, I'ma stay saved. When I'm playing ball and they fouling, y'all, and I hit the floor, get up, don't say a word, I'ma stay saved. Listen, this is The Network, the educational podcast designed to help our community navigate spiritually, physically, mentally, and financially. I am your host. Again, my name is Michael Prejean. Today's guest is a pastor, a scholar, and an author whose ministry blends deep biblical study with real-world application. He leads Greater Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church with a passion for clarity, context, and conviction, all while pursuing a degree in biblical studies and preparing for a future in the seminary classroom. A devoted husband, father, and community voice, he is committed to spiritual growth, emotional honesty, and faith that transforms everyday life. I need y'all to welcome to the network, with your real hands and with your virtual hands, Pastor Braxton Halliburton.
What's going on, man?
Hey, man, I'm so glad to have you here in the Funky Four Podcast Studios, man. We love helping the community spiritually.
Absolutely.
Right? We love
Absolutely.
to help our people navigate spiritually. So I'm glad you're here. Listen, this is what we do, Pastor Braxton. Before we dive into anything, who do you want to give flowers to while they can still smell them?
Oh man, that's a great question, man. I would like to give flowers to Pastor Emeritus Keith L. Turner Sr. I know his son and daughter-in-law were on a few weeks ago. I would like to give him his flowers. This is a man who knowingly and unknowingly taught me so much about pastoral ministry. And I would like to give him his flowers while he can still smell them.
Outstanding. I think that gentleman, I know that gentleman, man, did a lot for a lot of people.
Yes, sir.
Probably more than he knows. And he's been on the podcast as well. So, but I probably need to bring him back now that he's retired.
Yes, sir.
Right? I probably need to bring him back. All right, Pastor Braxton. Let me ask this question first. Not a scripted question, but I want to ask this. Why pastor? As in the role. Why do the work? We know that some people know, not everybody knows, that work can be painstaking. It can be very difficult. What pushed you to answer the call?
Man, I ran from it for a while, to be completely honest, man. A lot of people don't know. I kind of started ministry on a different type of trajectory. I started as a gospel rapper, and I was in a group, and a lot of the other guys that were in the group, they all preached, right? And I remember we would go places and people would say, "Man, do all y'all preach?" And I was like, "Nah, they preach. I just rap." And it was actually, I was at Valley. At that time, Pastor Turner Sr. was the pastor. And I remember I was rapping, and I heard God clearly say, "You're supposed to be doing more. You're supposed to be doing more." And it was at that moment where I accepted the call to preach. And then just like when I was rapping, I preach, but I'm not going to be nobody's pastor. That's where I'm going to draw the line. And then I began to have such a heart for God's people, and wanting to see God's people grow spiritually in such a way that I said, okay, I feel God pushing me in a direction, and it was so much to a point where everything else kind of felt unnatural and uncomfortable because I was walking outside of my purpose. So it was either keep getting whooped or keep walking into things that are not going to work, or fall in line and walk into your purpose.
So, how long have you been pastoring?
I will celebrate 2 years of pastoral ministry this coming January of 2026.
Okay. I guess I'll say early, happy early
Yes.
pastoral
Yes,
anniversary. For those who don't know what it's like, for those who will never experience what it's like, for those who are running from the call, what has been the most fulfilling part of your pastoral ministry in these first 2 years?
Oh man, seeing the growth in people. I think that has been the most fulfilling part, 1000%. And I think that for anybody that steps into the pastoral role, if that's not the most fulfilling part, then I would question the motivation behind being in the role. I feel like to sit in this seat should always be to see the growth in people. Oftentimes we look for growth in number and in church size and how many people are sitting in the seats. But if you got 100 people in the seats and none of them are growing, you just mishandled 100 people. So the most fulfilling part for me is seeing the spiritual, the mental, emotional growth of people that God has put under my pastoral leadership.
That's good. That's good. That's really, really good. Somebody who will watch this or listen to this who is running,
Yeah.
stop running.
Yeah.
Right? Stop running. When Pastor Tink and Tasha were on, one of the things that we spoke about was, one of the things that Pastor Turner would say quite often, and that is you can't outgive God. There's another thing you can't do, and that's you can't outrun God.
You can't outrun him. I'm a living testimony that you can't outrun him because I tried.
You can't outrun him. Man, that's good stuff. All right, so 2 years into your pastoral ministry, and now you're an author.
Yes, sir.
Now you're an author. So, man, can we talk about the book a little bit?
Absolutely.
All right, so the devotional seems to be designed for those who are going through seasons of struggle, doubt, waiting. Each week in the devotional, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is said to explore a unique encounter with Jesus.
Yes.
Aiming to show how grace responds to pain, restores identity, and then can reignite our faith. So, can you walk us through one season in your devotional?
Absolutely. Well, just even on just last night, because we as a church, we've been going through the devotional as a church. And on last night, we meet each week and have kind of like a Bible study where we kind of unpack what we've been kind of reading throughout the devotional. And last night, we covered the beginning parts of week 3. Which week 3 is around the man at the Pool of Bethesda. And it's really the biggest thing about it, what we kind of unpacked was that waiting period, right? Because the man had been in that condition for 38 years. And sometimes time can be the vehicle that drives us into disappointment, right? Because we wait for so long and we begin to think that if something was going to happen, if something was going to change, then the length of time tells us that it would have happened already. And sometimes that time can make us doubt God and in frustration. So when you notice that in that narrative of the man at the Pool of Bethesda, when Jesus shows up, even in the man's waiting, but the key to it was the man was there for when Jesus showed up, meaning that he didn't throw in the towel, he didn't give up, he kept showing up, even though it took 38 years for the circumstance to change or turn around. And one highlight that I brought up last night, and I didn't even catch this until I was reading through it. I told the church I was mad that I would have put it in the book, but the man had been dealing with the problem or the infirmity for 38 years. And at the time, Jesus is not even 38 years old. So when the man became afflicted, his deliverance wasn't even born yet. So sometimes we can find ourselves in something, and what God is going to use to get us out, he's still working on it. So you just have to sit and wait on God's time.
Listen, 38 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
So I cannot say that I would not have given up, right? I'm sure there are a lot of people who would probably feel the same, but this devotional is for people who find themselves in that type of thought process.
Absolutely. Because grace shows up, and that's what it's designed for, to remind you that grace knows, because the text says when Jesus showed up, he knew that the man had been dealing with that for a long time. So it's not that grace has turned a blind eye or a deaf ear to the time in which you're waiting. Grace knows. I think that the waiting that we deal with in life, we have to shift our perspective, because it's often the deciding factor. Like, is this wait preparation or is it punishment? And I think that the perspective is how you navigate. And I suggested that in order to reveal if it's preparation or punishment, you have to begin to change the question that you're asking when you're praying, right? Because often in times of waiting, we shift to the why question. God, why this? Why me? Why is it happening? Why hasn't it happened yet? Why am I waiting? And the whys can make you feel like it's punishment, because it's just a why. Instead, we shift the perspective to a what question. Lord, what is it that you want me to see? What areas are you trying to grow? What is it that I'm supposed to learn? What are you trying to move out of my life? What are you trying to bring into my life? And that's how you stay rooted in your faith, even while you're waiting.
Okay, so let me ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I've been waiting, right? Let's just say 38 years, right? Because, let's just say I've been waiting 38 years. Why is a good question to ask, it would appear.
Mm-hmm.
How do I keep my mind focused on the what? Okay, God, what do you want me to learn here? Right? Because it can be very easy to fall into the why. So what remedy do you have for those of us who will fall into the why? How can we stay focused on the what?
That's a really good question. The biggest thing is, don't think that you're going to not have those why days or those why moments. Because we're human. That's human nature. But even in those why moments or those why times, you have to continue to remind yourself that, one, God still has a plan and God is still in control. And that's where your faith has to remain. And because God still has a plan, because God is still in control, then he will sustain until the time comes when something different is supposed to happen. But the key to it is, just like the man at the Pool of Bethesda, for 38 years, he's still coming to the pool. You keep showing up in whatever space that looks like. If it means keep showing up at work, putting your best foot forward, keep showing up in your relationship, keep showing up as a parent, keep showing up as a child, keep showing up as a nephew, whatever the showing up looks like in your life, just keep showing up, keep putting your best foot forward, and trust that God's plan will fulfill itself in his time and not ours.
And I like what I like about this is his, like you said, his deliverance hadn't even been born at the time of the onset of his infliction. What I really want to point out for those who may be watching and listening, Royal Ruby is in here with us. Thank you, Royal Ruby. Royal Ruby said perspective is key, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that is 100% correct, because what that 38 years does is it gives us some perspective. It may take longer than you think, but if you just keep showing up, that's good stuff. Let me see. Let me go ahead and I want to get the book up here on the screen. All right. So hopefully y'all can see this. That's not the greatest screenshot there. Let me see if I can get it on here a little bit better. That ain't no better. All right. So, but there's the book right there. I know that may be a little hard for you to see. Grace in Every Season. It's a 5-week devotional. 5-week devotional from Pastor Braxton Halliburton. So if you are in a season of waiting, if you are in a season of frustration, if you are in a season of struggle or doubt, then this devotional can reignite your faith. It can help you restore your identity and help you understand how grace responds to pain. You might be in your why right now. And this devotional, this tool that Pastor Braxton has created, is to help us move from why to what.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff. All right, listen, y'all. You are in the network. I'm your host, Michael Prejean. I have Pastor Braxton Halliburton, who is coming up on his 2-year pastoral anniversary. He was running, but he found out that God was Usain Bolt when it came to running this race. All right.
Yes, sir.
So listen, before we go to the next segment, here's what I need y'all to do. I need you to like, subscribe, sign up for notifications if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend to tell a friend. This is how people find us here in the network. Okay, let's move into these funky four corners, Pastor Braxton. So this is the epicenter of this podcast. We like to help those who watch or listen spiritually, physically, mentally, or emotionally, and financially. So you said the best spiritual advice you ever received was to follow God's lead over personal ambition. Can you describe a moment when you had to choose obedience over opportunity? And what was that like?
Man, it actually came before I was installed as pastor of Greater Mount Carmel. I had been there. I had been there for a while. They were without a pastor. I had been there preaching each Sunday, and in my mind, hey, this thing should be progressing faster than it is. And I remember I preached at another church at which the pastor was older, and he's, at a point in his life kind of thinking about retirement. And I remember he reached out to me and said, hey, I would really love for you to be here because I don't have a successor. And without saying it directly, kind of telling me, hey, come over here for a little while. When I retire, then I hand you the keys and the reins. I prayed about it, and God told me to stay where I was. Even though I'm frustrated because I'm in that waiting, right? I'm frustrated that it's not moving in at the pace that I wanted to move, but God said, stay put. And it was one of those things where I had to choose to be obedient to what God said versus taking this opportunity, because I'm like, okay, God, you know, in me and my personal ambition, this is what I want to do now. I've accepted this call. This is what I want to do. And now I see this could be a fast track, right? It could be a fast track into pastoral ministry. I could get this church. He's already kind of expressed that he wants to retire soon. Or I can stay where you sent me. You've already told me that I'm called to this area to provoke change in the community. I can be obedient and stay here and allow you to work everything out in your time. It was very difficult, but I feel like it all has worked out thus far.
Okay, so I'm listening to you, and I was writing some stuff down as I was listening to you. So the imagery, I mentioned Usain Bolt a second ago. So this track and field imagery is in my head, right?
I got you.
So
that's the coach coming
out. So when we are running a race, right? So imagine, if you will, a track meet. And at the track meet, most people show up to watch an individual compete.
Mm-hmm.
Losing sight of the fact that that individual is also part of a team. That individual is probably ready to run, ready to go, ready to go. But there are a sequence of events,
right,
that have to happen before that individual that you came to see can run their race. Right? So there's going to be a relay race. There's going to be a long distance race. There's going to be some high jumping and long jumping and all of those things. And when it's time for your individual to run his or her race, they get in the blocks and they have to wait. They can't even just take off and run. They can't just, time for the 200. Let me get in my blocks and take off. Right? There's a timing system.
Absolutely.
That has to be set up. Make sure that it's ready. Your starter has to make sure that the timer is ready. Once the starter is ready, he has to make sure that the people at the finish line are ready.
Mm-hmm.
He does all of that happens before he says, runners on your mark. So spiritually, what I'm seeing, here's the spiritual connection that I'm seeing. Sometimes we are so ready to run, only looking at our individual race.
Yes.
But there are other races going on that are connected to my success.
Yes.
And then before I can take off and run, there are checks that are happening in the background that I'm not paying any attention to.
Absolutely.
That have to be in place before, not before I can go, but before the starter can say, runners, take your mark.
Yeah.
So we've done all this praying. Mm-hmm. We've been in prayer, right? The prayer is the practice, right? We've been showing up.
Yeah.
That's practice, right? And if any of you understand track and field, sprinters hate practice, right? Sometimes spiritually, we hate waiting.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we absolutely hate that, because I'm going to do all of this running to go run for 10 seconds, to go run for 12 seconds,
right?
To go jump 3 times. But all of those things have to happen before we hear runner, take your mark.
Right.
Right. And then the whole time in your spirit, you ready to run.
Yeah.
You're ready to run. Come on, God, let's get it. Let's get it. But all of those other things are happening in the background. Man,
yeah. You got to stay active. And you got to stay active and stay warm while everything else is going around. So you can't just sit down And that's whether, okay, you out of practice, but you're at the track meet, meaning you still got to keep showing up. You still got to keep praying. And in my mind, okay, God, it hasn't happened yet. And he said, well, you're going to still show up every Sunday. You're going to keep preaching. You're going to keep praying for the people. When they want to talk to you, you're going to keep doing everything that you've been doing until I say, now it's time.
Man, listen, I would advise anybody watching or listening to this, if you have never been to a track and field meet, I need you to go. And I want you to watch, because you brought up something really good. Even when it's not time for you to compete, you have to be warming up.
Got to be warming up.
So 45 to 60 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour before your event, you start warming up.
Yes.
That seems like a really long time to be warming up for something that's not getting ready to happen immediately. That's good stuff, Pastor Braxton. That's good
stuff.
Try
to go out there without warming up and see what happens.
Man, listen. You don't want to be out there tight. You don't want to be out there. I didn't post it. I recorded something earlier today about having tight faith.
Yeah.
Tight faith. Tight faith says that's not possible, but stretched faith says with God, all things are possible. Man, Pastor Braxton, that's some good stuff. All right. So somebody told you that physical health is just as important as mental health, especially with age. So what shifted for you after receiving that piece of advice?
Man, the biggest thing was understanding that I'm getting older. We talked about the 38. I'll be 38 in February, and so with everything and every hat that I wear, it's like, okay, we're just trained to go, and I don't know where this mentality came from in our modern day, in this modern day era, where rest or sleep is now frowned upon, to where we perceive that if you sleep, then you're not grinding. If you sleep, then you're not hustling. It's like, okay, well, you want me to grind to the point where I burn out? And so I think that we have to shift this mind frame of taking care of ourselves. Just last week, I actually just was looking at the calendar and realized that I had preached. There was only 2 Sundays out of this year that I hadn't been in the pulpit, that I hadn't preached on a Sunday. And last Sunday, I thank God that he's now sent me a young man that has been a huge help in ministry. And I just called my brother and said, hey man, I need you to preach for me this Sunday. And I just stayed home and got some rest. And that's one of the biggest things that I feel like is overlooked as far as our health. Like, just give your body time to just recharge. Outside of, going and of course keeping yourself active. I don't run like I used to, but I got myself a bike. So I'll start riding my bike. But just that rest aspect, man. I think the culture in which we're in right now has put a dark cloud over rest, as if rest is counterproductive, but it's really not.
We get caught up in the rat race. We really get caught up in it. And I don't think we have the intention to try to keep up per se with the Joneses. But when everything around us is moving at that pace, sometimes we just kind of get caught up in it.
Yeah.
Right. Because this is, this is a conversation that's been had for years. Right. Lots of people have this conversation, about the grind culture, about sleep is for suckers. No, man, the scripture tells us that he gives rest. He gives sleep to those whom he loves. Well, who does he love? Last time I checked, everybody.
Yeah. Man, I tell
God,
people all the time, man, when the Bible starts with creation, and it says on the seventh day he rested. Now, if God had to rest, what makes us think in our feeble bodies that we don't need to rest? It just don't make sense.
let me ask this question. I have a thought, but let me ask this question before I say the thought. I might not even need to say the thought. What is your advice for people who feel guilty about resting?
The guilt comes from thinking if I'm resting, then there's something I'm not doing, or someone or something I'm not showing up for. My advice would be that whatever you're showing up to, or whoever you're trying to show up for, you're essentially pouring yourself out to, whether it's the job, relationship, whatever it is. And you can't pour from an empty cup. So the advice is take a moment to refuel yourself, allow yourself to be recharged so that you can effectively pour when you need to, and you don't burn yourself out.
That's good. That's good. We we get caught up in trying to, my opinion, here's my opinion. I think we get caught up in trying to save people.
Absolutely.
You know, where it's like, that's not our job. You know, our job is not to be the savior. Our job is to lead people, right, to the savior. So I think there are times when, like you say, we want to pour out, we want to be helpful, and then we find ourselves in situations where we can't really help, but we don't know how to get them to help or allow someone else to help them, or don't enable them, because sometimes we think we're helping people, but we're actually enabling them. And sometimes we just need to take our hands off the situation, but we keep our grubby little hands in it because we figure we need to really, really, try to save people without actually saying that. So let me ask you, man, now that you mentioned your young age of 38, how do you manage the physical demands, right? Because you got to study, you got to parent, you got to serve the community, and all of the things that come with the pastoring. So how are you managing to continue to take care of yourself in the midst of all of those demands?
Man, to be completely honest to you, man, I have to give a lot of credit to my wife. Because a lot of the behind the scenes things, she takes care of that and makes sure those things are done. And it was one of those conversations that I had to have with the church when I first became a pastor. And it's like, okay, I'm y'all pastor, but that's my first lady. And when I told them that that's my first lady, because often, and especially in smaller churches, they assume, okay, you're the first lady. That means you're going to be over the women's ministry. You're going to be involved in this. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing this. And it's like, wait a minute. Y'all can't pull both of us in 10,000 different directions. That's my first lady. When I'm here and I'm pouring into y'all, somebody's got to make sure that my two girls are good. When I leave here and I go home after Bible study and I'm starving, there's a hot meal there waiting for me, and those things in the home that my wife so graciously takes care of allow me to be in these other spaces, in these other areas, because life is still happening, right? Our oldest daughter is 15, but we also have a 2-year-old, right? So when I'm sitting, when I'm sitting down and I'm working on a paper, I'm crafting a sermon, or I'm studying or doing homework, and she's running around, she still has to have a bath. She can't bathe herself. We in potty training, but she still has to be changing those type of things that that have to get done, that I necessarily don't have to do all the time. Now I'm not naive to that fact. So when I get those moments, I'll cook the meals, and I'll give the baby the bath, and I'll take care of the diapers to give her that time for the rest. But she understands, and I think that's the biggest part of it. She understands the demand that's on me outside of our home. So she makes sure that whatever she can do to make the burden lighter on me at home, she does it, and does it a great job at it.
That's good. It's definitely good to have help. So shout out to First Lady Halliburton.
Absolutely.
We're going to make sure we get it right. All right. So let's move to the next corner. Let's talk about mental, emotional corner right here. So you said the best advice you were given was not to keep things bottled up.
Yes.
So here's my question for you. What do you do to process emotions in real time?
You have to have a safe space. Whether that's you write things down, whether you have someone that you can talk to, whether you have a place that you go and have open dialogue and conversation, whether it's a person or a group of people, you have to have that and have it on a consistent basis, because you said to process it in real time. Meaning you have to have those people around you that you can be open and honest with, and give those and give those raw emotions, and not feel like you have to be judged, especially in the seat that I sit. As a pastor, you can't have certain conversations with everybody because everybody doesn't understand. So one person that I'm grateful for is Pastor Tink. Is someone that we talk a few times a week, and just vent about things that only we can understand because we sit in the seat that we sit in. So I would encourage people to have that. Find someone or a group of people that you can confide in, express to, whether they give sound advice or if it's just an ear to hear. Hey, I don't really need any advice. I just need to get this out. I had a day and I just need to talk. I just put the phone on mute. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't need your opinion. I just need to get this out.
That's good, man. I think everybody needs an ear.
Absolutely.
Right? Nobody asked for this. Nobody asked me, but I'm gonna just say it. I like to vent. Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, hey man, I just need to get it off my chest.
Absolutely.
Right? Like David did in the Psalms. David was just getting it off his chest, and then he would be like, and the Lord is so good. Yeah. The Lord who keeps me is so good.
But I had to get that out.
But I had to get it off my chest. God is good. Let me get this off my chest real quick.
Because the thing about it is, people have the thought process that God can't handle all of our emotions.
Come on.
That if I express how I feel, somehow God is not big enough to handle whatever it is that I want to express or that I want to vent. How somehow that if I say that I'm mad some kind of way, God is not big enough to understand or have grace enough to say it's all right. We got to understand that God is big enough to handle all of our emotions.
For some reason, we are afraid of God. And I'm not talking about that healthy reverence.
Right.
I'm talking about like we are really scared, right? The scripture says, come boldly before the throne of grace.
Yes, sir.
But we are scared. And that's, to your advice, about not keeping things bottled up. There's a portion of the population who keep things bottled up because we are afraid, number one, to talk to God about what's really real.
Yes.
And number two, we just scary.
Yeah.
We just scary. We're afraid to be honest with how we really feel about things. Some of us are afraid to be wrong. We don't want to say it because it might be wrong. Well, how else will you know if it's wrong or right if you don't say anything at all? But man, we got to stop being afraid to talk to God.
Wow.
Because you said it. He can handle.
Yes.
He can handle our emotions. All right. So that's spiritually, physically, and mentally. Let's talk financially just a little bit. It's always good to get through these funky four corners. So the best advice you've received is invest and plan for the future. It's always good to save up for a rainy day. So what does that look like for people who serve in ministry? What is saving for a rainy day? What does that look like for ministers?
Yeah, I think that finances has been a area in church that a lot of people want to stay away from, because oftentimes when you talk money in the church, people get the mind frame that you're just asking for money. The church just want to get your money. And I feel like the church has to do a better job in teaching people financial literacy for those rainy days and for that generation that's to come. So I feel like I heard the comedian, actually, Ali Sadiq, and which is a Muslim brother. He was on the radio. He's on 102, and he was in the context of what he said. He was talking about voting, but what he said it, I tried to apply it to really to all these four corners in which you speak of. He said that pastors have to realize that on any given Sunday, no matter if it's a big church or large church, you have the attention of that congregation for anywhere from, well, I don't really preach long, so I would say anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes for more of my long-winded brothers. 20 to 40 minutes. What are you telling them? What are you doing with that 20 to 40 minutes that you have of people's undivided attention? And I think as leaders, especially as pastors, we feel like, okay, I have this 20 to 40 minutes. It all has to be about your spirituality. And I believe that we have to have a broader scope. Like, yes, it's about your spirituality, but I also have to talk about your emotional health. I also have to talk about your mental health. And I also have to talk about your financial health, because it'll be irresponsible of me to expect you to give and be fruitful, and I haven't taught you how to invest, how to save, and how to manage your money. Because money is not the problem, it's the stewardship of it is the problem. Because God is saying sometimes I can give you more money, but if you don't have discipline, then you will blow through $100 and $1 million the exact same way, because the discipline is not there.
I guess my question, not necessarily for you, I'm just throwing this out in the atmosphere. My question for church going folks is, if you are trusting your pastor with your spiritual life, why don't you trust him with those other parts of your life? That's my question.
I think the in my mind, just my thought, right? I tell my church all the time, I don't need you to, I'm not trying to make you think what I think. I'm just trying to make you think, right? And in my thought process, I believe a lot of people are battling, one, the stigma of church and finances, or battling or trying to overcome some type of church hurt in that financial space. And one thing that I see, I believe, as far as giving is concerned from a church perspective, I believe that people are inclined to give when they can see where the money is going. I don't necessarily feel like you have to preach a message on giving. I feel like if people can see where the money is going, whether that's in the building in which we occupy each and every week, whether that's what we're doing in the community, if people can see where the money is going, they're more inclined to give. Wheeler Avenue just paid off their church. I don't remember how many millions of dollars it was. They just paid off their facility. It was a 25-year loan that they paid off in 5. And I personally have never heard Dr. Marcus Cosby preach a sermon on giving. But when you are a part of that church, you can see where the money is going. You can see how they're affecting the lives of the people that are in the church and in the community in which they sit.
That's good. That's good. It is, I got my good friend, Dr. Brian Turner, coming back on in a few weeks. Okay. And we're going to talk about return on investment within the Black community.
That's good.
And I think that's what you're talking about there is
absolutely.
You see the return on your investment. Let me ask you one more question. One more question about the financial piece. Let me scroll back to it real quick because I scrolled away from it. Financial advice. What financial advice do you believe that young families need? This is specifically for young families. What financial advice would you give them?
Learn how to invest and live under your means. I think that in the Black community, we have the tendency to try to live right at our means or even dangerously live above our means. Because the stats show that the Black community spends more money than any other community in the United States. That's a fact. Those are the stats. And I believe that if we just live below that, now it's not saying that you're going to live in poverty. It's not saying that at all. It's saying just to budget yourself below the means, because you just never know what happened. You never know what would happen. I think our seasoned saints did it all the time. When you went to Big Mama house, she didn't have a big fancy house. She didn't have a big fancy car in the garage or anything like that. She cooked her own meals. But if you say, "Hey, Big Mama, I'm a little tight. I need X amount," she go in that room in some kind of way. Now, Big Mama on a fixed income, but some kind of way she had what you needed to get you to where you needed to get, and that's because she wasn't trying to do too much.
That's it, man. That's it. My mother-in-law, I was talking to her a couple of weeks ago. I was, talking about my son. And I was like, yeah, want him to, do ABC with his money. She was like, he don't need to do that. He just need to go to Nola Granger School of Money.
Yeah, there you go.
Nola Granger was his great grandmother.
Yeah.
So she was like, this is all he needs. Listen, everybody, you are in the network. I'm your host. My name is Michael Prejean. We are here with Pastor Braxton Halliburton, and we are talking all things related to the funky four corners of life. We are helping to get you ready spiritually, physically, mentally, and financially. If you want to follow Pastor Braxton, I'm going to put it up here on the screen, up there at the top. You can find him on IG at Pastor Braxton, or if you want to catch him on Facebook, right there, Braxton Halliburton. Pastor Braxton, play a game with me, sir.
Let's go.
All right. Here's what we're going to do, man. I got 22 questions for you.
Okay.
22 questions, not just 21, but 22. Here's the first question. If you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be and why?
Man, probably the fly. It'd probably be the fly, man, just so I can get anywhere quickly and get there fast, man, because I hate traffic.
Man, listen, living anywhere in the greater Houston area,
Yes, sir.
It's a doggone shame. And I'm gonna leave it there. All right, here we go. 21 more questions. These first set of questions are either or.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna go rapid fire style. Here we go. Purpose or passion?
Purpose.
Seminary classroom or Sunday morning pulpit?
Seminary classroom.
Early morning devotion or late night Bible study?
Late night Bible study.
Teaching or preaching?
Teaching.
Physical strength or mental strength?
Mental strength.
Listening or speaking?
Whew. Listening, depending on who's talking.
Okay. Planning or spontaneity?
For me, it'll be spontaneity.
Okay. All right, here we go. Agree or disagree? Most people confuse calling with convenience.
Agree.
Leaders should always go to therapy.
Agree.
Financial stewardship is spiritual maturity. Maturity.
Agree.
Busyness can kill clarity.
Oh, agree. Absolutely.
Every pastor needs a pastor.
Agree.
Ministry is nearly impossible without family support.
Agree.
All right. And then this last one, social media hurts spiritual growth more than it helps.
Agree.
Okay. All right. This is word association. Word association. I'm going to give you a word and you give me something back. Here we go. Faith.
Trust.
Fatherhood.
Duty.
Discipline.
Struggle.
Healing.
Needed.
Study.
Needed.
Community.
Growth.
All right. And purpose.
Heart.
Okay, good stuff. I appreciate you playing that game with me. Little rapid fire.
Yes,
little
sir.
Rapid fire right there. All right. Before we get to these last two segments, let me ask this question. Your kids are watching you. What do you want them to understand about pastoral life?
That even though it may, on the outside looking in, it may look stressful, it is rewarding.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Stressful, but rewarding.
Yes.
Because you have a heart for people.
Yes.
All right, Pastor Braxton, we got 2 segments left. This one is good medicine. This is where you can prescribe to our listeners and watchers anything that will be good medicine for them. So what is your prescription for the people?
A 5-week devotional called Grace in Every Season is written by a man that I know named Braxton Halliburton. And for those that already have that, I would say there's a book that I'm currently reading now. It's an old book, Jesus and the Disinherited, by Howard Thurman. Jesus and the Disinherited by Howard Thurman is the book I'm currently reading right now.
All right. So make sure you get your hands on that devotional. You can find that at Amazon.com, and then say the name of that second book, the one you're reading right now, Pastor Braxton. Say that name again.
Jesus and the Disinherited by Howard Thurman. Jesus and the Disinherited. Let me make sure. Yes, Jesus and the Disinherited by Howard Thurman.
All right. And we'll make sure that we drop that in the show notes. So whenever you go back and watch this, you can find that in the show notes. All right, Pastor Braxton. This brings us to the very last thing in this episode. This is called You Didn't Ask. So what we do here is we give our watchers and listeners one piece of advice that nobody asked for, but everybody needs. So what do you have for You Didn't Ask?
Get some rest. Whether you rest in your body, rest your mind, rest your spirit, just get some rest. Everybody's in this go mode with everything going on in the world today. Everybody's trying to get somewhere. Get some rest. Don't overlook the power of resting yourself.
The Sabbath was made for man.
There you go.
I think a lot of times we forget that, man. Listen, y'all stop being so scary and be honest with God, okay?
Yes, man.
Stop feeling guilty about getting rest. Pastor Tink told us when he was on this episode, there's a God and none of us are him.
There you go.
Everybody. Man, before we get out of here, I need you to hit that like button, subscribe, and smash that bell so that you never miss an episode. Listen, I need y'all to go to Amazon.com, pick up your copy of Grace in Every Season by Pastor Braxton Halliburton. I also need y'all to go and follow this brother. So lots of good stuff out there. You can catch clips of his sermons if you go and follow him here on IG. This is where you can find him on Facebook. If you are listening to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. Give us a quick review. This is how you help people find us and grow the community. Follow us on IG at podcast_with Prejean. I probably got that in here somewhere. I don't, but y'all can find us at podcast_with Prejean. Check the show notes for the good medicine and the advice that you didn't ask for, but Pastor Braxton gave it to you anyway. This is the network, your spot for elevating mind, body, spirit, and finances. As we navigate through this life together, subscribe to the network because you never know, you might need it. I'm Michael Prejean for Pastor Braxton Halliburton. Pastor, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely,
we're getting ready to get out of here. Listen, until next time, I need y'all to do one thing and one thing only. Y'all see it back there. Let's make love the culture.
Peace.